discuss, this is what's gonna be on the agenda Monday night. Discuss the adoption of the MWPP resolution. What's that stand for?
That's mine.
Municipal wastewater prevention.
It's a
Plan.
yearly housekeeping thing we do, so it's no big deal there. Discuss the adoption of the ordinance amending chapter 50, health, and article 2, junk. This is where Nelson redid that, that ordinance, to better specify what in people's yard, what's classified as junk and whatever, to help our, officer, out with that. Cause he gets in these yards and some things they say is junk and he says it isn't, so it'll help him out.
What brought it about, let me go in detail a little bit, so they'll
Okay.
understand. What brought it about was Rex, our code enforcement officer, Sergeant Morris, went out and wrote a ticket to a guy. Well, the guy comes into court, and it was air conditioning units, it was ice chest, it was stored under his carport, and it was stored neatly. But the judge said, well, junk is not defined as to what was actually junk. So if it's under the carport and it's stacked up neatly, I'm gonna find every one of them not guilty. So we asked Nelson to clarify what is junk, what is not junk, to make the ordinance a little more enforceable.
I got ice chest under mine.
Yeah, but you don't have 10. You got 10 of them and window units and you see what I'm saying? I mean, it wasn't just one ice chest, it was quite a bit of things.
Okay.
My understanding on this, when we talked about it in the meeting with Rex, that we were gonna put some time amounts in it, or we're gonna leave that to the court. That way we're gonna give, that would give the judge a little bit more oomph to put it if he had to, so. Right, if that's in the lawsuit,
We're gonna do what?
we were gonna put some fine amounts in it, I think we discussed it.
Yeah, we kinda leave that to Stuart. Set the fine amounts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce Amy Palladian. She's the new Main Street manager.
Hi.
And she's also, that's one of her jobs right there.
Now the official videographer.
Yeah, that's right.
Town council videographer.
That's right. Okay. Next item is city building fees. Let me start by going over this. This is in two separate sections, really. The first three pertain to the CAC, and you have your chart that Derek has done.
They don't have this chart, because this
They don't have this chart?
was, they don't have this chart. That was the one I
Have
gave
you
you.
got some copies?
I did.
Man, you just like ended the pocket on your shirt. I said, you handed a pocket on a shirt.
Well,
That's
I
handy.
just, I
That's
just
handy.
gave you too many fees, and I know how it goes.
Yeah, you
Brad,
are
this is the
mean,
updated
man.
one with that, what we
Yeah,
discussed.
Oh, you got another brand new.
That's the one about the,
Okay.
Did you ever get a chance to watch one of the
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, now let me get started again. All right. Y'all can be looking at that. That is the fees and all that we come up with for the RV building, the CAC building, the Civic Center. And I'll let Derek talk a little bit more about it in just a little bit. But you can be kind of looking at that. But to preface all this, the reason that we're trying to do this is that you have three buildings that the public use. The CAC building, the Civic Center, and the RV building. Okay, let's go to the CAC building. Last year you lost $44,000. Was how much you went in the hole on the CAC building. Besides going in the hole, $44,000, you're fixing to have to spend, a man fell and busted his head open up at the Civic Center. I mean up at the CAC building on the asphalt. And I checked about 3 years ago, we're talking about $100,000 to redo the 1/3 of the asphalt. We tried to donate that building and get rid of it to the school. 3 years ago, and they didn't wanna do it. Because they saw also how expensive it is to maintain. But our rent is just, you know, unbelievably cheap, and so therefore it's used quite a bit because people are taking advantage of the fact that it is so low and the utilities are so high, $23,000 just on utilities. That's the CSC building, so that's the picture of it. Then you've got the Civic Center. You lost $33,000 on the Civic Center last year. And you've got maintenance on it. I just had it power washed and fixed to have it painted. That'll be another $8,000. There's constant repairs and stuff to it, which, I mean, that's just part of it, owning a building. The next item is the RV building. It went in the hole with just $6,000. It has expenses too that are gonna have to be done to it too. But you have a loss in those three. So this is what this sheet of going up a little bit on the price, but believe me, it's not gonna fix the huge loss that you've got. And, but it will, help it a tiny bit. But you're still gonna have to face these losses. But Derek, if you want to go over this, and what we need to do is look at this sheet and see if there's something on there that you want to talk about today in this meeting. If not, Monday, we need to be together and approve this new schedule.
Well, real quickly, the RV building, one of the things I noticed when I was going through it is there's a lot of out-of-town rentals, and those buildings are for our people to use, so we really went up on the out-of-town rates on these buildings because they come in and they probably don't care about it, and there's a lot of people that are like that too. But I know we ran into that issue the other day with the RV building, that it was left dirty, and we ended up cleaning it up. The hospital helped Citizens Bank clean it up. So what we want to do is go up on these rates, and as they continually go up, we want to go up higher on the non-resident than we do the resident. We also need to charge for the sound equipment over at the CAC building because, and over at the Civic Center here, because it costs money to maintain that. The other thing we're requiring to have alcohol, they're gonna have to have $1 million.
I saw that was new. I mean, they've always had to have police officers.
Yeah, the police officers, and I made sure I specified it has to be SPD. It cannot be outside. And then, take up and take down. If our guys have to do it, it's gonna be $100 to set it up, $100 to take it down. Clean up, if it's not clean, the city has to clean it, that money needs to come out, and somebody actually needs to walk through those buildings after they're done to make sure they're clean. I do know that when we were in Civic Club here, and we had events here, we cleaned this place, and it was cleaner than when we found it, so. Curfew, of course, is pretty much standard. And then I added something in here on teen events. They have to have 2 SPD, and then in this other policy I have here that Gray has, is they would have to have, also 2 chaperones there. And that's for the protection of the kids, because, you know, it's not like it was 25, 30 years ago. Parking lots for the vendors, $150 for, if you're pulling in a bunch of trailers, $150, not talking about your dinner trailers, if they come in and do dinner for the event or whatever, but talking about, if they set up like all these food trucks and have an event. Also the kitchen, and we're gonna discuss, it looks like on the agenda about the kitchen here, but we're gonna charge for the use of that kitchen in that area because we have to maintain that. It costs money to keep those things running, and they'll have to be cleaned and everything else. So really it's like Ray says, now the RV building will probably cover our costs easy, but the other 2 buildings are just not gonna be money makers, never will be. They're just not unless you have the thing filled up every day of the year just about.
Well, I figured that up here last month, and it would take like 297 days of a year for these 3 buildings to be used to pay the offset, and that's not gonna happen.
When you
In
rent,
any town.
when you rent your CAC building, you said audio, y'all gonna let anybody use that audio equipment? Are we still using, are we back to, 'cause before, nobody was allowed to use it, but certain people
Well,
like.
like Sunday, they had, I was called Sunday on my way to church. They had, St. Rest had an anniversary up there. And they called and asked, you know, could we come up there and hook up a couple mics? Well, I said, it's gonna be after church, because I didn't know anything about it. So Coach Webbs and I went up there at 1:30 and got him some microphones. So I don't mind that kind of stuff. That's.
The sound equipment, and this is what I've got into this policy here. Is
That'll all be talked about when you rent.
I have a
right?
question. Right, and that's where this is gonna come into, and it talks about the fact that a fee will be charged for the use of the equipment, president, okay, blah, blah, blah. You will have to bring in somebody that knows the equipment, and that person we either pay them or it covers their equipment, so it's whichever the council chooses. I didn't write that
But
down.
like just running up there and sitting at 2 microphones and me leaving, that ain't a big deal.
Is that,
But sitting up there for several hours running this for them, then that's where that cost would have to come in.
so is that person, like, when they rent it, cause we got, my guys are over and set it all up. Are you gonna be the man that we contact?
Me or Coach Welch can turn it on, yeah,
For that microphone?
right. Because all that stuff is locked up.
Right.
Right, and the same with over here. I remember they used to just hand us the mics. They kept the mics over in City Hall. I don't know exactly what they do now. The other issues we're having, and it's just the
Excuse
Army.
me, before you go any further, I hate to interrupt, but I lose my thought.
Okay.
I have two questions.
Sure.
First of all, my question pertains to the setting up of microphones, because I contacted Coach Welch myself. I believe we were talking and you gave me his number.
That was, yeah, a couple months ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, the microphone set that you're talking about, does that belong to the city, the CAC building, as, you know, to alleviate using, you know, the most expensive? And if so, because, there was a fee for the other young man, you know, to come and set it up, we're gonna pay him. I think that was for Linda McDaniel and Terrell Mendenhall when they had an event. And you have to pay that person to come set up the portable. And, if that's the case, that needs to be included and clear on how much the charge is. And in addition to that, when people do have events, they don't last for several hours. 2 hours at the max, from my experience. And my other question is pertaining to the insurance. Because when you have $1 million insurance to buy, and I wanna rent the building, where do I go get insurance from? Or do we get it from the city? Is that in the cost, or
You can get it.
how does that work?
Right up there at Paces.
Well,
But
that
that's
needs to
only
be
that's
clarified.
That's only for alcohol. No, that's their responsibility.
No, I'm saying the policy for the insurance,
The policy says.
for the insurance, I haven't read all of that.
Yeah,
It's
it
in there.
says,
I just see the million.
it's the insurance required if alcohol at event.
Right, so if somebody wanna rent the building, they gonna buy the insurance, that's no worry.
Right.
But they need some direction on where to get it, you know, if it's in the bank of the data with all the costs.
And we
I
can-
mean, is it gonna be in there as a contractual thing, or is they gonna have to go out looking and they really don't know what they're going to look for?
Well, most people that have events that have had them, i.e.
They don't know,
Well,
I wouldn't know,
Well-
cause when I was doing the school, I didn't know.
what we could do, what can be done is there
Yeah.
can be a sheet in there that gives some names of people, of
Yes.
insurance companies around here. You can buy it online. I bought it online for the
But-
Fuller Center event.
Yes,
We didn't
sir.
have alcohol, but we had a jump house, so I had to buy $1 million worth of insurance.
Yes, sir, I was just trying to speak as a customer relations person.
Right.
I would know.
Well, and those are small things we can
Right.
hammer out. And what my goal is, Nicole, is to have this online, a fillable application online, and all the information, everywhere I've looked at all these other cities, That's how they have it, and then they bring this application in to, say, Kim or whoever's taking it.
Yes.
And they pay their fees, and they, you know, at that time, they have to present whether they're not-for-profit, they have to give that certificate so that Kim knows what
Exactly.
to charge. They have to show whether they're a resident or not. And I know it's a little extra work, but if we're gonna continue doing like we did, we're gonna continue getting the same stuff, so we need to kinda.
The work ethic part is no problem, it's just clarification.
Yeah, and this that I have here, you haven't seen it, I haven't given it out, but it clarifies a lot, but as far as the insurance, that's no problem, you just list, some names that they can call.
Yes.
And that's easy.
Yes, sir.
I mean, if that was hard, that would make my day if it was easy. I mean,
And
it's
most of our events are not alcohol
Right.
related, so.
and yours probably aren't.
Well,
No, they're not, but I was speaking from the perspective of a customer that don't know,
Right.
that might not live in Springfield, that's gonna rent the building, gonna have a party or whatever.
Yeah.
I was speaking from that perspective.
Yeah.
I understand.
And you're talking, and I know what you're talking about, I think I know. what
Yeah,
you're
but
talking
you know, we know all of that, but other people might not.
The
Yeah.
two problems you're gonna have is, one is gonna be honesty that, no, we're not having alcohol, and then they do have alcohol. We run into that quite regularly.
That's where you guys have the authority.
And it's always been my stance is send an officer by there to do a walkthrough if there's alcohol.
Yeah, we
Shut
talked
it-
about that.
Shut it down.
And that's what this
Yeah.
information has, that we're gonna pound it. We gotta get the rates right, and then we'll do this part.
And the second part that you're gonna have a problem with, and it's gonna get out there that, hey, if you live in Springview, you can rent it for this. If you live out of town, it's gonna be this.
Yeah.
I get my
Rather
cousin
than
to
live in
go get
Springfield,
it.
you my buddy, it's gonna bring
Yeah.
that thing.
And
I
we know
know.
that's gonna happen. But at least we're still getting 650.
Yeah.
So, but we know that's gonna happen, and, you know, how we fix that, we just have to watch. It's never gonna be perfect, Will,
No.
unfortunately. So,
Okay,
So is this gonna be effective as of after the council meeting, the next day, or?
well, we have some things that are booked way ahead, that we got.
So would they get the same price, or they
They'll
gonna
be
be?
honored,
they'll
whatever
be
we
grand,
go, will be
grandfathered
honored.
in.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would say May 1.
Probably May 1.
Anybody that calls after May 1.
Yeah, anybody
to
after
do it.
May 1.
I have a question on that. If I wanted to, book the RV building for next year in March, which I plan on doing, so will I get the same price for the RV building now, or do I have to pay the RV
Pay
building?
for
If you pay for it now,
And book it
Uh-huh.
before May 1st.
Yeah.
before the new rules go into effect.
Thank you very much.
But I got a question too, Derek, because, you know, Ashley had done all these like this, so does this change from what we?
I went back and I looked at some areas, and especially on the non-resident, because what I'm finding is these other places, other towns are charging far more, and some of them don't even let non-residents use it. So, yes, and this is an easy chart to read. I changed it up so it was easy to read. And, you know, and she can change it into something like that if she feels more comfortable, but.
I just wanna make it as easy as possible because
That's-
they all rent buildings back there, it's not just always
Yeah, it's
Kim. Cause if
pretty-
somebody's out of pocket, somebody else has to be able to do it,
It's pretty
you know.
straightforward. It goes right down the line and has the stuff out to the side.
But as the chief said, we do get, you know, we ask, are we having alcohol at this event? And we get told no a lot of the time.
And this, particular, form that they would have to fill out, number one, if they're gonna have, they gotta get a signature from police department, and I gotta get with you guys on that, but it also covers, if there is that, like the chief says, he's gonna send somebody by there, he'd shut that thing down. That's what I do, and that's,
And then they forfeit their
they
deposits.
forfeit their deposits, yeah.
Have you got anything in there that covers smoking of marijuana?
Not just smoking, we need to put something in there.
You need to, cause there's lots of times we walked up there and knocked them down. You smell it the next day.
Yeah.
They're waiving it because
Kinda sick and
they're paying
sweet.
for the whole year.
Sick and sweet. Yeah, that building and my thinking on this, so that y'all understand how I came up with this long term. Johnny Hampton, now Johnny's passed, and I have a lot of respect for the man. But, he set that building up as something to bring people into Spring Hill, and we want to keep that continued. Now, granted, it's been used for everything else other than that, but we want to encourage these long-term arts and crafts and arts and entertainment things to come into town. And for economic reasons. And y'all will see that when I present you with the survey information.
Okay, that pretty well covers that. Anybody else got any questions? Okay, the next part of this is a different part of it because it's the other building that the city owns, the DMV building. We call it the DMV building, it's not that anymore, but, that building is rented for $800 a month. It went in the hole $6,000 also last year. All right, the difference is that this is a for-profit business, the private for-profit business. This is not a building that the public owns and uses. This is a private business. All right, so, to make it break even, just to break even, the rent needs to go from $800 to $1,200 a month. In the lease agreement, it says that the lessor has the right to increase the monthly rental fee after providing evidence that the rental fee does not cover all expenses for the city associated with the lease premises. This is in a lease agreement that was signed by Carol Bro in 2015, and it automatically renews for 10 years, so it's good to the year 2025. And I talked to Nelson about it, and what bottom line here is what we're doing, we're subsidizing a private or profit business with taxpayer money.
Frank, can I interject?
Nelson, you wanna say something
I
about it?
think that the central distinction between the other building and this building, other than is they're for public use, that's fine, taxpayer money, but if we're operating releasing a building to a private individual and subsidizing the taxpayer money, we're losing money, then I think city needs to do something to rectify that situation.
I do too.
And I agree with you there. Would they even be interested in purchasing that building if the council would consider selling?
You can't just sell it outright to them.
Surplus.
Declare it
Declare surplus
They
and have
can
a bid
bid on it.
process and.
Well, that's been successful since we've done that, but I'm just saying, I'd hate, I mean, I don't care who owns it, it's a good service for Spring Hill, I'd hate to know I have to drive to Homer or Minden every time I gotta get my license renewed, or anybody else in here. The building's really not a use of the city doesn't wanna be in the real estate business. You know,
So we pay the utilities and everything?
Yeah, can I interject
Everything.
something in here?
What,
I've got
if you compromise, how much do the utilities run?
about $8,000 a year.
How much a month?
$8,400.
About $600 something a month. It's
Oh, that's not
$8,400.
gonna help.
But let me interject something here, and I've looked at this 15 different ways, and Nelson is the legal people and not me, but I did do some research. The property insurance on that building, which we carry, it's gonna have to be carried regardless of whether somebody's in that building or not. That's common to that building. And then you have to ask yourself, who's gonna benefit if that building is destroyed, whether they're in it or they're out? The city, not the renter. That leaves, and then of course the tenant plays the others. Yeah, we can go ahead and raise that cost, but what we're looking at, since that is a cost that we're already paying and we will have to continue to pay if that person walks, and that you're gonna create another problem. That's the loss of the service to the community, which brings people in. You've got, one inspection guy down there that can do inspections, and he's gonna have to drive to Minden to get the stuff.
Yeah, cause inspection stickers are locked up in that vault.
Yeah, older citizens are gonna have to go. I'm not sure how Bob and them get their license. I don't know if they go up there and get their license plates for the cars they sell.
Well, they don't have to do business in that building.
No, they don't have to do business in that building, and.
Or in the town.
What
How
I'm
much
saying
insurance?
is that,
How much is
that
it?
cost, that insurance cost is gonna be there regardless of whether that person's in there or not, unless we sell that building. Unless we just drop the insurance and say, hey, if it burns, it burns.
How much is the insurance?
52 or 5,300.
5,600.
5,600, yeah,
Per year?
per year. So
It'd be
that,
good if we could just get rid of the building.
the other part of that is the way I'm reading this lease is it doesn't really need to come before us to make that decision because it's an automatic renewal. It just says that the lessor, the city can go back at the beginning of the end of this lease, which is June, I think. Yeah, because it goes from July 1st to June 30th, and just provide the information. So, but that's my thought process. I think I don't feel like we're subsidizing the insurance part. I do think we're getting awful close with the utilities and all that. We're not technically making much, but about $100 a month off that building if you pull the insurance out.
By this, we're losing money on it. So we'll vote on it.
Well, that was done before I even saw this contract, because I was told.
Well, that's
that-
why I let Nelson look at the contract.
Yeah, that's why I was
to
told
Make sure I was
that-
doing right.
Yeah, that's why I was told that it was out of contract.
The difference
So
is,
what
I
the
don't
mayor
think-
said, I'm just trying to understand, cause there's so much going on in my mind, okay? So the mayor said in order for us to balance, we need to charge $1,200, is that what you said?
If you're
Instead of
gonna, if you're
800.
gonna recoup the insurance part of it, the property insurance that we're already gonna pay and continue to pay. And that's perfectly, you can do that, that's not a problem. But you've gotta look at it from some other sides too. If I'm gonna say, are we subsidizing that business because we're paying that insurance? We're not subsidizing that building because we're
We're
paying that
subsidizing their rent.
we're not subsidizing it because we're gonna pay that insurance regardless whether they're.
Yeah, we're gonna, but they need to pay though, to offset that 1,200. Whether they pay the insurance or whether they pay the utilities,
Right. And
they need
Basically,
to
what she
contribute.
pays for the utilities.
Right.
Correct?
Right,
That's about it.
right. That's it.
And the city's gonna carry the insurance regardless.
Unless they get rid of the building.
Basically, her rent covers the utilities.
That's it.
You could offer it for sale. I mean, that's just my thought process.
But I sure don't wanna lose it.
Oh, no, we don't either.
I don't wanna drive sitting in Minden for 3 or 4 hours to get a driver's license,
Or Homer.
or Homer, or an inspection
I
station.
do mine online.
Like I said, you can
Chauffeur's
always,
license,
you
you
can
can't
always
get them there,
declare
and they have to go
surplus
to Homer.
and sell the building and put it up for public auction. They have the opportunity to purchase it. And probably would get it cheaper than the $1,200 a month rent.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea if we're gonna.
And then you're not helping a private business, there's no conflict of interest. And I understand where the mayor's coming from. I would have brought it before the council under the circumstances that he's under, before I raised the rent.
Because you're raising the price on all the rest of the buildings,
Well,
you know, that the residents use.
Those are public, apparently,
Yeah, they're-
there's a public use building, this is a private business, it's not a city service that the city's providing.
Right.
It's
No.
a business.
but it has
Private
it
business.
has a contract, and that contract allows for the mayor to make that decision.
Mhm.
And his.
At his discretion.
Used to, when it was the DMV, before it became the tag agency, the city got $2 a license plate, you know, from the DMV. We no longer get that anymore.
That's the only reason we did it for 800 a month. Cause we were getting that income, see. We should've went up then, but we didn't. But we'll bring that up Monday night and it's up to y'all, or however y'all wanna vote, it's up to y'all. Cause this is, y'all are involved here because y'all are over the buildings that are owned by the city.
That's a question for now. Can we raise the rent for, let's say, $200 and make them pay the utilities? Would that kind of break it even or?
Yeah, you can do anything.
You the council, you can do whatever you want.
I'm just
Almost.
trying to, who won't lose?
We
Well,
can,
that's what
Cause
I'm
it
saying,
seems
basically,
like-
what she pays a month, $800, pays for the utility bill.
Yeah, we pay everything in.
But if it needs a new roof, the city might pay for that. I mean, and I agree, it is a service. But if it's a profitable business, it'd be worth owning the building and keeping it there as well. And then it's not an expense on the city. And I don't have a dog in the hunt, I'm just talking.
Yeah, we rented it to a private it's not for the city, we rented it to a private business.
You know, a recommendation I would say is that let this contract play out till June 30th. And let's go ahead and maybe put this thing up for, do we have to do their surplus?
Yes.
You'll have to declare it as surplus property and put it up.
Because here again, that's $5,000 we're paying regardless if somebody's there or not.
We don't need to do that.
What's that, put the building up?
We don't need the building.
No, I was gonna say, it's just another thing to take care of.
And of course, it's not as bad as these other buildings, but it's another expense we're out that we could do without. But yeah, Dennis, we can do anything you want to do.
Well, this is a good idea, I think Derek's got, let the contract play out.
Put it up for, surplus property.
Well, you got how many more years?
2025.
Yeah, but the renewal comes June the 30th, or July the 1st, yeah.
It's
This
a
year.
once a year renewal.
It's automatic renewal unless we,
It expires, period.
Oh, so you're saying let it run to July this year and then declare it surplus?
we're almost in May now, so.
I didn't know if you were talking about this year or talking
No,
about
this year,
twenty
this year,
twenty-five.
but that way, because if we put it up for surplus, don't you have to put it out for, we put it out for bid?
Mhm.
So you have to put it out for bid.
You gotta advertise it, you gotta do.
Right,
like-
that gives us time to do
You're
that.
talking about this year or next year?
This year.
Yeah, this
Well,
year.
if somebody will make that motion Monday night,
I mean, I think that's
Y'all
a
can
good
vote on it.
solution for it. Gets that $5,600 that we're paying for insurance out from under us.
I wish you could figure out a way to fix these others.
We're working on it, Ray. We're
Declare
working
it
on it.
surplus.
Are we gonna declare this building as surplus and put it up for auction? I mean, put it out for bid?
If they make that motion.
But I mean, I got to put this on the agenda if we're gonna discuss, you know,
How
to
does
consider
the rest of
this.
y'all feel?
I think so. I think that's a good solution. Yeah,
I mean, that's our hangup there, is that extra $6,000.
okay.
Could you put it on the agenda in case they don't make the motion?
I mean, it'll be on there, and if they vote not to do it, they'll just turn it down, yeah. It's gonna be considered, you know,
So it's gonna be on the agenda, make a motion to make it surplus property after
to consider
after the
making.
year,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is June
to
30th.
consider declaring the building as surplus property no longer needed for public use.
Right.
And then
They
you can
can-
decide.
Somebody can bid on it and they can buy it. Which would be smart.
But I'll
thing
have to,
do.
it has to go through the advertisement process and all that, if y'all decide to vote to do this.
Is there anything, I just, in the lease contract about the city selling it
No.
during that time period?
Oh, here we go. Pass that around.
Look at it one time, so I had to make sure that we're not violating, or we're agreeing to hold or whatever, own it that time period.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, next item, it's about the buildings also. It's the CAC parking lot. You know, I told y'all, I think that, I forget the guy's name
It's
that
Fred-
failed.
Fred
Do you remember
Schroeder.
his name?
Fred Schroeder.
Fred Schroeder, yeah, not super guy. I mean, he says he's not gonna file suit or whatever, but I mean, I saw him, he's pretty bummed up. His head was all busted up. But he tripped and fell over one of the big hunks of asphalt up there that are sitting out there. It's the third of the way, well, it's really the drive in front of the CAC, and then about a third up there in the parking lot. It's really mutilated.
From the building really to the well side.
Yeah,
Basically.
right, yeah, about a third of it. And, it really it's got to be replaced. You know, it's pretty dangerous, especially at night, when we have these night functions, you can't see nothing out there. And, it's a wonder something else hadn't happened, but I checked into it 3 years ago, so if you know, it's a lot higher, I'm sure now, but it was $80,000 to do it then, so I would guess more like $100,000 now. I bet it would.
And it can't be just fixed in certain areas, blocks, and it has to be pretty much that 1/3.
Well, that 1/3 is so tore up that you can't.
Well, and all the water right now too, running straight down to that building.
Yeah, that's gotta be, would be corrected too, you know. I think I'll see, I better check and see what it would be nowadays. Cause 3 years later in this business, it means a lot. We can come back to y'all with.
With mulching that asphalt up and coming back with some French drains and gravel, fix your problem at a cheaper rate.
Some ring rock.
You mean
The
turn it
French
in-
drain will help.
not you do asphalt, do?
Don't redo it with asphalt, mulch it up.
Gosh, I don't know.
Put you some French drains in and then gravel over it to keep the water from
The
running.
French drains will help on the drainage, but the gravel will wash out. Cause it's lower back here and all the water runs that way. It washes
Buy
out.
gravel a whole lot cheaper
Especially
than buying
if you're in the
asphalt.
driveway and it's coming out this way, I mean, there is a bad place right there in that low curve, and that's probably where, and there's a drain right there.
Okay. All right, I better revisit this then before I bring it together.
At least get some prices.
Well, I got those, but I bet they're not good anymore.
What about the signs up there? I don't know.
The repairs to the sign at the CAC,
You skipped
number
over that
4,
one.
you skipped it.
Oh, did it? Okay. Repairs to CAC building sign. Oh, yeah, we had those replaced, and I thought it was gonna come in under 5,000, but it came in 5,200. Came in just a hair more than what I am can approve. So I was just bringing that to y'all. But you remember they were blowing around in the wind?
Yeah.
So it had to be replaced by Add Signs out of Minden. They're the ones that have all the artwork, all this kind of stuff. So they came and replaced it, and replaced one of those little, things where you put the letters up there, and replaced one of them. And it was 5,200. I thought it was gonna be a little less, so, but
Motion on that.
I gotta get you to go back and prove it.
Mike, there is a sheet of that stuff in the CAC, the stuff you put the lettering on, back there with those chickens. That's what I thought city was gonna put up.
I didn't know it was there.
It's been sitting back there for 3 or 4 months, and I figured that y'all got it to put up there where that hole was at. Just go over and look, it's sitting back there with the chairs.
All right, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's a big old sheet.
Okay, next item is discuss an alcohol license for Spring Hill Spirits LLC, DBA Spring Hill Spirits in Dacry at 1800 South Arkansas. That's, Mac Pace.
That's the building he built right there
Uh-huh.
close to Smith South Central.
I mean, you don't
It's
have any
not-
problem with that,
It's
do
not
you?
close to a church, it's not close to a school, which none of that matters anyway, because we gave Brookshire's too close to that church, so.
Yeah, but yeah,
No.
I don't see any problem with it, so, okay, that'll come up Monday night.
But
Is it
let
actually-
me ask this question, that building is for sale.
Uh-huh.
Why are we gonna give liquor license to a building that's not in use?
Well, I guess it's sold, I don't know.
Well, the for sale sign is still out
No,
there.
this is Mr. Pace asking for,
The owner of the building.
he's asking for the liquor license, so maybe
It's
he's
in
gonna
his
open it
name.
up and operate it until it sells.
But if he sells it to somebody else, they've got to come back and
Reapply for liquor.
reapply.
They have to reapply.
Well,
Correct.
you know.
He's already got his state license,
State license has already been
and he
granted.
called me.
Really? Normally
Yeah.
the state won't give you one to the local,
Well,
give the local. does.
He's advertised in the paper, so he turned in his affidavit. Well, he called me last month, cause he wanted it on last month's agenda, and I told him, I said, it hadn't advertised in the paper,
Right.
and I said, it's got to advertise 2 weeks in the paper, and he says, well, he goes, y'all don't meet till the 3rd Monday of the month, so I've got time to get it done. I said, no, sir, I said, we meet the 2nd Monday of the month, and we're fixing to meet on Monday night. So anyways, he brought the affidavit by and dropped it off and paid his $500. And then I had to call him because he hadn't
Well, he
heard
threw
an
it at you.
application.
He threw it at
Yeah, he threw it in the window. And
How long does it have to advertise?
it has to advertise for 2 weeks in the paper.
He's
and
already
they're
met the
applying.
requirement there, though.
He's got all the requirements, so then it's really no brainer.
But then I also wrote him a letter and sent him an application, and I told him he'd need a business license, which a beginning license is $50. And he does not have a water account at the building, he will need a meter deposit. But he told me at the appropriate time for those 2 things, but he has paid the $500 for the alcohol license.
Okay, that'll be Monday night. Next item, discuss the downtown sidewalk project. This is the previous council had approved a four-phase sidewalk, project downtown. We finished phase one, which is over by the, what we call the DMV building on that side with, the new paved, repaired the pavement that was there. I mean, it looks fantastic. We've watched it, we've looked at it. It did crack a little bit right at first, but they came right back and repaired that, and they had a reason why that crack happened, and said that won't happen in the future, right? And, it's held up real well, and it looks good, so.
Got expansion joints in it?
Yes. So it's time to do phase two, if y'all want to.
Phase two's the opposite side.
We're in gyms.
What's the cost on that?
But the cost, as everything else, has gone up a little bit to $27,000. 27.
We did the first one for 20, I believe.
Yeah, first one for 20. And this is the same size as that one. Cause it's in the same
They
block.
want a lot.
Mhm. So this one's 27. Have you got the other ones, what the other ones are gonna
Yeah.
be? I mean, I was wondering how much more is it than the other council
And
approved?
now these other ones are a lot
Oh,
bigger.
they're a lot bigger, that's right, okay. All right, this one's 40 and 40. Oh, okay. So 80 and 27, that's 107. And we just spent 20, that's 127 instead of 100. So it's 27,000 more than the first council approved.
Those other two streets are, those other two sidewalks are much longer.
Much longer, yeah.
That's why they're more price.
And they just approved the one section.
They approved the whole, well.
They did the project, but they only wanted to do.
They said they
phase
wanted
one,
to do
let's
the
see what
whole,
happens.
the whole project of 100,000, but then they wanted to do just one phase at a time, so that they could watch it and see how it did, and, you know, just gradually get it all done.
We can go ahead and move on that in a phase, at least the street, if we can afford it.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, they got approved it, so. But yeah, it's up to y'all, you know, cause we're gonna approve each section as it comes up, and after we're pleased with it, you know, so. That'll be on there for Monday night. Did any of y'all have any questions? Do you have any questions?
Well,
Did-
as
I mean,
long as you
this
keep
was-
waiting,
This was-
that was done when, right before Christmas? And that's $7,000 more, so as long as we keep
Because y'all three
waiting.
weren't here when we
Right.
did that, so if you had any questions about it, you know. But it's tore up something terrible, you know, we just think it's gotta be, it's a liability too, it's a hazard. People have fallen on that too. They fell at the DMV one day, so, I don't know, these buildings are, man, I tell you, this property is something trying to maintain. Discuss downtown side.
I have a question. Do you think we should do it all at one time and get it over with, or keep going through the phases?
It would be cheaper.
That's what I was thinking. We
Do it
gonna
all
do
at
it.
one time and be done with it, and just,
Well, and that's a good idea in that we have seen their process does work. I mean, that's the main thing the council, you know, is worried about,
Right.
is it gonna work?
'Cause-
And we think it's
And
working.
that would be 3 more phases,
yes.
so you're looking at $21,000 right there. If we keep putting off like we're doing now.
Oh, yeah.
He's giving me the prices current now, you know, for these other two phases.
Right,
Well, that would be done with it and.
Yeah.
just do it all at once.
right.
I got a question though. I'd like to know how we're gonna pay for it.
Well,
That's my
that was
question.
my question.
Yeah.
Zero funds.
Because-
And does it have any kind of warranty?
I mean, we got some major issues coming up in the water and sewer.
Oh.
And we've been looking at redoing this sewer plant for a while. And I think we're gonna have to prioritize what's more important here, what we've
Well-
got to do.
We have the budgets coming up next month, right?
To start the workshop, yes.
Okay.
And we'll have to adopt the budget for next year.
All right, we can put it off till after we do the budget, if y'all want to. I mean, you wanna see, cause especially y'all that have not been here, you don't
Well, in my
know.
opinion, right now, the water is really more important, in my opinion, to the citizens than the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I know it's gotta be fixed,
Yeah.
but this to me is more, gotta be done now.
Yeah.
More priority.
Correct.
Well, we can put this off for a while.
Let's put it on off, I think.
Okay.
Mike's right.
All right.
We can all get together and have a work day.
So we're not gonna do the phase two?
Huh?
What about the phase two? Are we gonna do
It's
that?
up to y'all.
Again, so I think it's back to.
Is that doable, Miss Shelley?
You asked me, is it doable? Okay. I just
I know our water is a priority, that's a no-brainer.
I don't have it in, this would have to come out of the general fund, and I do not have the money in the general fund to pay for this right now. I can move
You
money.
can move money.
But I want to caution, because I've been talking to accountants and auditors too. You know, everybody's had a fit because we've raised the garbage rate, and I'm afraid the water sewer rates are fixing to have to go too. Everybody says these water bills are outrageous, but they're not. I mean, $20 of this water bill has nothing to do with water and sewer. But I recently just moved $300,000 out of the 92 sales tax bank account to the O&M fund, which funds water sewer projects, you know. And I don't budget to move money out of sales tax to operate the O&M. The O&M is supposed to be a self-sustaining fund, and it's not sustaining itself. The sales tax dollars mostly are used to operate the general fund, because, you know, a big chunk of our budget covers employees, you know, salaries and retirements and health insurance. And you'll see next month when we start working on the budget, because we'll have to introduce our budget next, you know, at the next council
But
meeting.
what you're doing right now, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, is what you're doing.
Basically.
So, in my opinion, shut phase two down, let's get this up.
But I mean, we've got money in, we've got some money in reserves, but when you start talking big major projects like we're looking at, it's not gonna take long to go through what we have here. And that's what concerns me.
Main Street manager, can you go find us a grant?
I'll look for one. A lot of people do come in and ask about it. I've had about maybe 4 or 5 businesses on that side of the road come in just this week alone and ask when will their side of the road be repaired. You know, how can we speed that along? Rick Rowe announced it on television. They all want to know.
When we were doing it, they were out there asking me if they were next.
Mm-hmm. They do, yeah. I mean, I could
Well,
name.
other council did approve it, you know, so.
Well, I think we've gotta follow our money. We gotta make sure we're not putting ourselves in a spot where where we can't fix the priority items, which those are priority.
See, I'm at the tail end of the budget year here. This is April now, and I've still got, you know, May and June to get through. Of course, all the insurance renews in June, and that's a big chunk of change. So,
Can we just relook at this after the budget comes out?
Yep.
I think would be sensible.
Yep, we can. It's up to y'all. Okay, and we will. Okay, so the next item I had on here by mistake, discuss the multiple street lawsuit. We can't talk about that because it's a legal matter. We have to, in this, we have to go into executive session, which, we will do Monday night. And, let's see, the next, discuss changing the name of K Street to Melvin Butcher Drive. We shouldn't have put K Street, I guess. We should have put just a part of K Street. Got some calls today about that.
Me too.
But,
What part of it we gonna change?
just the part going into the park. There's no residences on there.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I think though we still gonna have to talk to 911.
Let me ask
I
this
tried to
question.
call them today.
Has the city park, we call it the Spring Hill
Recreation.
Complex.
Uh-huh.
Is that did the council vote on, is that an official name?
I don't know.
Don't know.
It's just called the Spring Hill Recreation Complex.
I don't think it was ever, I don't remember it being voted on.
Nothing but.
Why couldn't we call it?
Did y'all ever vote on that, Nicole? You remember that?
No, I don't
Nothing but your.
The
Instead of
original
changing the
baseball
street name,
field
why
was the
couldn't we just
Melvin
say the
Butcher
Melvin Butcher
Park.
baseball field like the old ones are?
You could.
I mean, the original park over there was the Melvin Butcher Park.
Correct.
Yeah.
But instead of changing the street name and going through all this, if that has not officially been named, we just been calling the sports complex Melvin Butcher Sports Complex.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the simplest thing to do?
Sounds fine to me.
Buy a sign and stick it out there and you got it.
I think we got a sign somewhere around here.
There's probably one on one of the baseball fields still out yonder.
Melvin Butcher
The
Park.
old field.
Yeah.
You might want something a little nicer than that.
Yeah, I mean-
That's what it was called.
Cause what would it take to rename this street? Would we have to do anything?
It'd have to go to 911.
That's what I was saying, check with 911.
I
See,
tried
I got
calling
calls
them
this
today.
morning, they were thinking that those other streets, and they said, oh God, we got renters here and they're gonna have to be changing. No, this, we're just
There's
looking
two
at this
houses.
100 yards right
And
here.
It's two houses, but
Two
you
houses.
would, you still have to go to 911 and
Let's
have
just
them do
rename
it.
the ballpark,
That's the easiest thing, just name the ballpark and be done with it.
and we'll buy a sign and
Okay.
That
Get
way,
with,
that way,
uh,
Ray, you don't have to call Google and have it changed on the map.
Sounds fine
get
to me.
with John and let's come up with a nice sign and put it out there between the fields or entering the field or something, and that'll
Okay.
take care of that.
All
Now,
right.
who is Melvin Butcher?
He owned all that property over there.
Where the whole complex at?
And he
That was-
donated to the city.
Then that's not what.
What was his career? He was an attorney or?
He was a realtor, wasn't he?
Yeah,
A
realtor.
realtor.
He was big, he was, Jesse,
Miss
him and Jesse
Grace-
Butcher were.
Grayson's granddaddy,
Yeah,
and
they were-
Grayson Butcher.
Cousins.
The one that ran for
Grayson.
police jury?
Yeah, Grayson Butcher's
Marshall
dad.
over at Shreveport.
No, Marshall, that's one.
That's his
Did he
dad.
win?
He's
No, he's in the runoff.
Okay.
That's his grandpa, Melvin Butcher.
Yeah, Melvin Butcher's dad, that's Scott's.
Yeah.
Well, y'all ain't agree with
Maybe
that?
they'll buy the
I mean,
sign.
I think that'd be the easiest thing to do, just
Talk to the family,
Rename the
they'll
ball.
buy the sign, they might wanna do it
Then we
a
don't
special
really,
type of way.
then we don't, yeah, I can talk to Callie, she was across the
They
street.
might want
Expand
a
on
big
it.
sign.
Yeah, you call
Bigger
me in
than
the
what
morning,
the
say,
city
we got a
provides.
better thing, we're gonna name the whole field after.
Whole
So I
complex.
don't, I guess we don't have to have their approval, the council approval to do that.
No.
Okay, we'll take that off. then,
Call it
too.
the Melvin
Thanks
Butcher
for this
Sports
guy.
Complex.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Sir?
Well, honors.
I said, I think you already got council approval.
All
Next,
opposed?
the next item, discuss the tiny house on Hickory Street. We're gonna have to, I talked to Nelson about this earlier, and it's a little bit more complicated than I thought. You might wanna address that, Nelson.
I had asked the mayor, because I wasn't familiar, if what, is the city under the Summit Building Code or whatever? And he said ITB, is it
ITB,
city
yes.
calls, for inspection, that kind of thing. I think we need to get them out there, inspect it, make sure it complies, make sure the wiring, plumbing, whatever is all up to whatever code.
Well, they did buy a permit, I did check
I
on
was gonna say,
that.
didn't they buy a permit?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, they bought a permit, cause I'd asked Ashley about it,
They bought a permit, it should have been inspected.
and, the electricity is hooked to it, cause I've tried by there.
As long as it's up to code.
I've jumped in.
It's
No,
my
I'm just-
understanding he's using it as a man cave, is what he told, I think Rex was the one that told us this.
Who is?
The guy that has the little house on
That's
Hickory.
all,
It's a Mosley that's on the
yeah,
fire department in
Kyle
Collins.
Mosley.
Thing about it is, 2 months ago, his uncle called me and wanted to put a trailer house there. And we come down here and said no.
It's
Well,
not
then,
zoned-
all of a
it's not
sudden,
zoned for trailer.
all of a sudden, the shop moves in over there. Now, there's carpenters over there every evening working, I'm looking at them. There's a light pole there.
But if it has a commode and you know,
You
sewer,
probably just open the back
water,
door and do it at the back door. It's
sewer and water
room enough to turn
and
around.
electricity, I mean, who are we to say your house has to be a certain size? You know?
Well, there's no covenant over there that says it has to be the size of the zoning, and the ordinance doesn't.
It's in the R1 residential
Well,
district.
my deal was, we told a man that he could not put a modular home there on a concrete pad.
Somebody told him he could put that
And
one.
now this shows up.
When, Okay.
You go from $200,000 to $15,000.
Then the code goes back to 1959, the code does. It is the R1, which is the most strict of all the residential districts. And mobile homes, modular homes, whatever you wanna call them today, they are not, you know, zoned in an R1 residential district. And the legal process to do that is they hire an attorney, they have an ordinance written, they present it to City Hall, it comes to the council, y'all will refer it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission Board. A public hearing has to be scheduled, it has to run for 3 weeks in the paper, and the people that's wanting to do it has to pay for the ad that goes in the paper. I schedule the public hearing, and then we meet, and then the Planning and Zoning makes the decision, and they recommend it back to the council, and the council votes on it. So it's gonna be an anywhere from a 2 to 3 month process when they do this.
Well, the problem
See, that's what I told the Edwards boy. He comes back to me a couple days later, drives over to the house and said, listen, I can't afford the lawyers and all this kind of stuff. I give him other options. Well, if the federal government is gonna buy you a home, there's hundreds in this town for sale. Get you a nice brick home, you know? Talk to Derek. They make him, and I mean, he is disabled. Well, then 2 weeks later, here's his shop is.
Yeah, and the problem is, we've already given them a permit, so, I mean, it's kinda like the.
Shelley,
Well, I'm
what
like
do we
the
have to
mayor
do
said
to-
the other day, clean that crap up beside it, make it look like something, but all it, they put the building
Right in the
I
middle.
mean-
right in the middle of all the trash.
If I talked to the man, I don't recall talking to the man, he could've called up on the phone and asked, you know, could he put a building on a lot? You know, I'm thinking you may already have the house there. Yes, I have 2 buildings in my backyard at my house.
Well, if he moved that one in the back of that lot.
I did not think, you know, you would, to me, that is not a house that's sitting there. That is a portable building that they put a front porch on. That's what it looks like. It looks like one of my buildings in
Well,
my
it's
backyard.
It's a shop, it's a beauty shop. Or it's
Yeah,
a
or
barber
some
shop.
people use them as beauty shops and barber shops.
It's not the only one here in town.
No, it's not.
But the thing is, if you don't legally zone it right, since he didn't call and say, you know, that's like putting a shop, cause I had a lady do that and she never put a beauty shop there
Yeah,
on
that's
that
the
corner
one
lot.
right there, Christie Allen.
This one didn't ask about that, and I always tell everybody the process, especially when it's the R1. I said, I already told y'all, you know, you hire the lawyer and go through all the steps, and that's what I tell everybody that calls here. I am not a building zoning official here. I am the city clerk, because I'm the city clerk. That gets dumped on me all the time when somebody wants to know about zoning regulations. All I got to go on is a book from 1959. And I've never been trained in any of this. You know, I can only read you what that code is saying in the code. So,
Does our book need to be updated, or who does that? Or-
Neil, 3 years old.
I remember we had this when they moved the trailer in District 1, remember?
Did y'all make them move it, or they just moved it?
And, because it had, you know, since 1959, it has never been updated.
September of 1959.
I mean, do the planning and zoning take care of that, or we
our
just?
planning and zoning board, they're not paid positions here. These are volunteers that serve on that board, and the only time the board meets is when a property needs to be rezoned in the city limits.
It's not.
So it needs to
it's
be
not
updated, correct?
Well, the book.
Cause the
has to be
demographics
updated.
and everything has changed, population. So do our attorney update it, or?
I don't know the language, but y'all have to.
It's
I,
gonna cost you.
I think we have.
Can
to
you
do
tell
that.
them what it costs?
It needs to be updated.
This is something that you.
1959?
And it's gonna cost you a ton to update.
Yeah, we ain't got the money.
It's gonna
What we
cost
do
you more than
though,
sidewalks. I
we have to
promise
have IBTS,
Yeah.
you know, ever since Hurricanes Rita and Katrina, all that started, that's when we started going with IBTS. They're the ones that do the inspections and whatnot. But far as, you know, me telling you, you can't put something here and there, I can recommend all day long, and I would never tell anybody, yes, go put that building on that lot, 'cause nobody's gonna bother you. Cause what I tell you is, when I tell you how you go about doing it, I said, if you don't do it the right way and a neighbor complains, I said, you can be forced to move this. Now,
You're the enforcement guy, Chief. What do you think?
I got a sit down and look at the ordinance and the law and everything else.
That's what Nelson's gonna
I mean,
do.
are we gonna rezone all these areas?
No, we don't do that.
So
What-
five
what-
days
what do we-
right now.
What do we update? I mean, the process probably is probably the same.
There is a zoning map out there, it's online, and Shelley was
Well, you
nice
can
enough to give it
eliminate,
to me. But our whole planning and zoning, Butch probably was in on it when it got made.
I was chairman of the zoning board
Yeah.
for about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, and what we need to do is start at page 1 and start reworking through it. And it's not that, I was on that planning and zoning, and it just needs the verbiage updated. And things like this tiny home thing needs to be addressed.
Sure.
And that,
So
so
here's your problem. You sold them a permit.
that's the problem.
You sold a permit.
You're saying it's
You're
okay.
saying it's okay, get after it. I mean, I don't think it becomes a code enforcement or a criminal action when you sold them a permit. It becomes a civil matter.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't settle a permit to turn out they violated ordinance.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking if we sold a permit, we might have thought, well, there's a house there already, and they got the permit because they were running electricity
Yeah.
to it.
But get ITBS up here to do the inspection and they say, wait a minute, this isn't what the permit was
But-
intended to be.
He says he's not living in it, he says he's calling it a man cave.
Tiny house thing needs to be addressed, cause it's popular.
Right,
A lot of
right.
people are doing it.
Well, we just got to
Yeah, we
meet,
have one right there on
and like I
School
said, I
Street.
come up here and sit with Shelley
To our whole
and
street.
got them all that information of the process for a modular home. And then he comes back and says, I can't afford the lawyer, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden disappears after you've been
But
told no.
who is the Mosley, I mean, I don't.
That's his nephew
That's
some
it.
kind
So
of
it's
way.
family.
That was his nephew.
But that house, that place where you got that house.
That was
there,
her grandmother's
Burned
place.
down. Melvin
Burned
Butcher's
down.
house. Burned down years ago, is what
He
it
burned
is.
down about, I was just thinking, it was about 10 or 12 years ago, I was going to school and it was burning.
But I also know one time when they did, and they didn't go back and rezone it, and they put a modular home there, and before they could come out there and make him move it, they pulled the wheels off of it, that made it become a permanent fixture. When you do that, you can't make them move it, either.
What you can do is we can get Rex to go over and really give them, get them on all the junk in there, they've gotta get it cleaned up, so.
I'm sure he's probably already done it.
Yeah.
He has. Okay, well, we need to, we're not gonna, that's not gonna come up Monday night, so we need to just get back to the next thing. Discuss the purchase, we talked about this, kind of goes along with the buildings. This building here needs to have a stove, and we talked about an ice machine with the previous council, and they said no. They didn't want to provide an ice machine to this building. So now, Derek has come up with, and now Will has said that possibly his daddy can maybe do a better price, which you can get with him on that, Derek, but, he wants to, we just need a regular stove back there, just a stove, and we need a freezer where when these people buy their ice, they can go stick it in a freezer and it'd be there for their event.
Cause that cooler just melts in there and it makes
Is
the.
it-
So it's just gonna be a regular stove?
Yeah, a regular stove and just a small freezer.
So not a commercial?
No.
We don't
No,
have
you
a
can buy
freezer
these
back
little
there
small
already?
ones.
We got one, but it's just got a little top. We got a refrigerator. It doesn't have a freezer.
Do you think that's good, that's a regular stove for the civic center, right?
It hardly ever gets used.
Yeah, it's.
There are some people, like the brown high people come, I know this.
Yeah, but this is a 5-burner stove that will give them plenty of,
A 5-burner stove.
5 burners.
Five
Four
burners.
burners on top.
Well, that one's got 5 and it says, I
Has
think,
it got a fan?
you're one in the center.
Okay, that's like is that, what kind is that stove? Is that
That's a
Whirlpool.
Frigidaire, I believe, or Whirlpool.
Whirlpool.
not like a Gen Air stove, though?
Yeah, no, it's not one of those that has all that fancy stuff in it.
But you're talking about, you just want a regular cheap stove, right? Is that what you,
Quality.
quality?
Not
Yeah.
cheap, cheap.
You could be buying another one.
Yeah, not
You
cheap.
get what you pay for.
Here's the only question I have. You took a stove out. There's not a stove back there, is
Yes.
Yeah. but
There's an
it's-
Can it be
antique one,
repaired?
when they built this building, they put the.
And that's a good
there?
one.
I'm just wondering, why go changing stoves? Are you going to get the fire marshal and you're going to have to change that vent hood? You change that vent hood, it's supposed to be expensive.
Yeah,
Does the stove?
Can the
work?
old stove be repaired?
they say you can't. Hadn't we checked that out?
Is
Okay.
it
It's
gas?
gas, yes.
And every time you turn the gas on, it fills the building up. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
What
no
they said
gas all over
was
the
it would
building.
cost more to repair it than would be to get a new one, cause you probably can't get the parts for it. What I was told.
You can go back there and
You
look
need to check
at it.
that out too, about the hood and all that,
I've
you done
seen
that?
it.
It'd take an
No,
army
I
to
just
do.
saw this on.
Yeah.
I've seen this
Okay.
commercial.
Well, we, sound like we need to pull that too.
Yeah, that doesn't need to be in money, we need to do a little bit more.
Gotta do a little bit more on that one too. That's why we have these work sessions though.
A little bit more on what there.
We gotta do a little bit more work on that. We need to get a new vent hood and all this kind of stuff.
And you may be fine, I just don't know.
But we need to do a little bit more work.
Or that one may just need to be
You
cleaned.
gonna table it? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna put it on there.
Yeah, we just need to
a
find
little
out.
bit more work on it. Also today, I had, it's not on here, but I had the Chevrolet place, every 3 years, when they change their service vehicle, is that what you call it?
They depreciate their
They
service.
depreciate their service vehicle out, and I think in the past, we have bought it from them. At a-
We bought the last 4 service vehicles they had, and
Right.
they depreciate them out. They gotta keep a vehicle for 3 years, then they can sell it out and get rid of it, depreciate it, and
we hadn't bought a vehicle in your fleet in a couple of years. This one is, you can get it for $22,500. Trade-in on it's $22,600. Retail's $25,400 on NADA book. Originally, it was, new, it was 36,000. It's got 50,000 miles on it, 52,000.
2017.
Want my cheap
2017.
tan.
It would be a cheap way to get a really good vehicle.
Will in, he need.
Do we need one?
Yes.
That was the
No.
first thing I asked. Okay, you've got to, replace some of these old vehicles.
Can we trade one of the old ones in and get something for it?
No.
No, they're pretty beat up.
When I get rid of one, it ain't
Especially one of Milton Drive.
You can't trade
Yeah.
one. You can't trade the city vehicle in any way, you gotta put it up for sale.
Surplus.
I mean, I used to
I
buy
tried that
2
long
every
ago.
year to kind of keep us in good shape.
I didn't know.
Started trying to
Anything the
cut
city
back
owns
the
has
same.
to be declared surplus.
And so,
Go out for bid.
we need to have a say.
Okay, well, that,
WD-40 on there, quiet it down.
that'll come up Monday. I think that's.
So where that
all.
money
No,
come
Chief's
from?
got something.
Chief's got something, yeah. Recommended to move Charles
Well,
Edgel
a little bit more
part-time
than
to
that.
full-time.
We've had 2 resign, Cheyenne Gilley resigned, Sierra Bonaparte. Cheyenne wishes to be moved from full-time to part-time as a dispatcher. Sierra Bonaparte resigned to go to work at Walmart where she can make more money. So I need to, Charles Edgel came and said that he would go from part-time to full-time. And he'll make a good officer, he's already post-certified, so we don't have to send him to the academy or anything. But I'd also like to recommend Paul Dunn and Rodney Howe be promoted to shift sergeants. They both have completed the academy, been with me for a little while, have done a good job, have been doing the part of shift sergeant, just hadn't been getting paid for it.
How much is
Did
that?
you get all that?
How much does it go up?
Well
About
done,
$1.
Rodney Howell, the
About
sheriff sergeant,
$1
or
an
just
hour.
sergeant. And Cheyenne Montgomery's going from full-time to part-time.
Cheyenne, Gilley,
Gilly,
What
I'm
are they,
sorry.
what are they normally do? You don't,
they work 84 hours every 2 weeks.
so they get 4 hours of overtime.
No, you gotta work 86 hours as a police officer before you go into overtime.
Can
So
they,
we're
yeah?
basically talking about $80 every 2 weeks for each one. Yeah, see that?
Well, like I said, there are 2 post-certified right now, but I've got 4, well, no, I'll have 4 that's gotta go to the academy at some point.
Is that all?
That's all I got, Mayor.
Okay. That's all I have. unless y'all have anything you bring up. That's all.
I have a question. When are these people, they've been served for the dilapidated homes, houses? Do we have like a date set for them yet to come in, you know, after we serve them?
I don't think we have somebody coming up for this, no, we don't for this month, but we should for next month. We should have a whole slew of them coming up next month. Cause we've had to redo everything, start over, cause
Right.
Kim's new, Rex is kinda new to the deal, we hadn't met.
We met that one time.
We need to meet.
So can you schedule another meeting so we can all be on the
I
same
think
page?
we need to
before they
schedule a
start?
meeting next week.
I'd like to see the properties that we have. I know
Grady
it's got
Smith on that list.
Who?
Grady Smith on that list.
I don't know, I got about a stack this thick,
He is ITPS, ITPS has already been out there and inspected.
then yeah, he's on the list.
Great. He has 3 or 4 houses.
That's all that. And it's.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
It's a little bit, but I'm thinking.
You off the weekend? Good for you.
Thank y'all.